All right, so obviously, even where I'm making this video is a testament to the treachery of all of the people and all of the cultures. Generational romantic injustice, generational social injustice, generational spiritual injustice, generational mental injustice, generational physical injustice, okay? Generational immoral injustice, right? So on and so forth, right? Mental, moral, spiritual, and romantic, okay? The things I bring up all the time when I talk about clarity. So how can they, without clarity, without the moral high ground, judge other people? So only as God's representative can somebody judge. Okay, so think about it like this, right? Prayer, right? Pray. To pray to God. Okay, so what are you doing? You're trying to summon the Spirit of God, and only if you're in the divine order can you successfully do it, because the King is God's representative. We're going to get to that in Proverbs 16. Write this down. Proverbs 16. Again, I tell you, Proverbs 16. Before we get to Proverbs 16 and a whole bunch of other stuff that proves my point, and we're going to do a part 2 of this video, we'll talk about Proverbs 30. It all makes sense to you shortly. Remember, they're sabotaging me, changing my voice, right? Human, Haru, Ra, Hu, meaning authoritative utterance. The magicians, the liars, the rape cults, they call it creative utterance because they deal in psychology and not martial art truths. Okay, so Proverbs 32. This is what they're saying. The person who wrote this. Surely I am only a brute, not a human with understanding. I haven't learned wisdom, nor have I attained to the knowledge of the Holy One. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? So it has to do with moving fast as the wind. Remember my world record speed? Remember all the bitch shit they do, trying to cover it up, even slowing down my videos? You know them by their works, okay? Is this consistent with the types of stuff they do? Absolutely, okay? Was Jesus mocked and given vinegar and given a crown of thorns and a cape? Yes. Who did it, right? It was the whites and the Jews. Remember, all Western culture is founded, all modern Western culture is founded in Greco-Roman culture. The people representing the culture of Rome, the guards, the soldiers, Pilate, etc., the spies, okay, were the ones who crucified Jesus. This has symbolism, has cultural significance, and so were the Jews that betrayed him. So there's Jews who are of the synagogue of Satan, who don't want the truth to be known. The high priest prophesied that the person would die for the people. Which ones? Okay, and it was the high priest of the brood of vipers. Okay, he said, why should the whole nation suffer for one man? The Lord thy God is a warrior. God's philosophy is the opposite of that. I tell you, it is the opposite of that. You should suffer for the king. The king is the continuity and the cultural memory of the people. So who has gone up to heaven and come down? It goes back to Egypt, where you have a reproductive cycle. Remember, Afro-Asiatic, right? Where is Abraham from? He's from the greater Babylonian area, Ur, Chaldea. Right? Nimrod, Cush's son, Cush begot Nimrod, and Nimrod founded Babylon. And Nimrod was a mighty hunter and a mighty warrior before the Lord. So the warrior spirit, and we see this again in the Bible where it talks about Shem inherited the tents of Ham, and so on and so forth. The warrior spirit of Ham and Cush and Nimrod is the Spirit of God. Okay? This is key. Remember, Shem and Semite, part, half, Afro-Asiatic. Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language. Amos 9:7. Are you not as the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel? Say, you're the same. Are you not the same as the Cushites, as the Ethiopians, as the greater Ethiopians, the greater African genome? We'll get to that if we have time. Okay. So that covers that. Now, let's establish what is and isn't a king, and that's really what part 2 is going to be about. We're going to go a lot more into detail. Okay. Proverbs 22. A king's wrath strikes terror like the roar of a lion. Those who anger him forfeit their lives. Now, a lot of times these proverbs have more than one application. Okay. Pretty much all the time. And if it's righteous, you have to use your moral kind of measurements, your moral scale, right? Your honest scale. And we'll get to that. Okay. What they're getting at is the Lion of Judah versus 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, for the devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. Something to this effect, almost word for word. Okay. So if a king is representing the interests of this world, and he's saying, you better not do this or that, He's acting like the devil. He's exerting authority over human beings and trying to get them to be worldly. So the king who isn't under God by default is an antichrist, and we see that in Psalms 82, that Jesus references when he proves that he's the Son of God to the Jews and they start stoning him. Okay? He says, if do not believe me, believe the works. He say, you claim to be the Son of God. Okay? And he says, well, isn't it written that ye are gods? Referring to Psalm 82, where they say, okay, that you are, I said you are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. And I've gone over this before, and before I had to wipe my phone because they're hacking me, I actually made a video like this proving that point as well. All right, so now that we've established the roaring lion versus the Lion of Judah, right? Righteousness, justice. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. We'll get into this in part 2. So now let's I'm running out of time, so let's do Proverbs 16, 1 through 26. We'll prove definitively, okay, that you cannot connect to God without the king, okay? And the king is the Christos, okay? He's the Christos. Jesus is one person that represents God. He's the Son of God. So basically there's a bunch of kings of the earth, and one is the King of Kings, who's God's representative. And the rest of them rebel. We see that in Psalms. Why did the nations plot in vain? Okay, the Lord has named his King of Kings, he's named his bloodline, and everyone else is plotting in vain. And unless this guy, in truth, sober and vigilant, names the successor from another bloodline, has a daughter and she marries a son or something, you know, it cannot be transferred. Okay. We'll get to that in part 2 if we have time. Proverbs 16, 1 through 26. To humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. Remember this part. Proverbs 16:1. To humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. Remember, I went into other videos talking about how the Lord weighs the heart. He tests the praise. He weighs the motives. Look at this. I mean, you shouldn't have to look that up to know it's true. Verse 2. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. I apologize if I sound annoying or something. They're drugging me. You can tell by my voice, and this is not really how I sound. And they're probably gonna do something with the sound on the YouTube and so on and so forth. But anyway, bear with me. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Okay, so they say the proper answer of the tongue comes from God. Motives are weighed by God. This is important. This is important. This is important. Verse 3. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. So you can't just say, hey, I want to do this, and then pray, oh, God, help me do it. No, wait for it. Verse 4. The Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster. Verse 5. The Lord detests the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. So the Lord detests the proud of heart, okay? And from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue for what your plans are going to be. Bear with me. Verse 6, through love and faithfulness, sin is atoned for. Through the fear of the Lord, evil is avoided. Okay, so you have to fear the Lord. He's the one who's going to give you the answer through the tongue. And we'll get into the why is God's representative shortly. When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them. It's a long story about why that is. Just skip over that for now. Better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. Okay, and obviously peace, it can come in the form of, hey, this guy's right, and now you're punishing him, right, in the afterlife because they didn't give you your rightful place when you're the King of Kings like I am. Okay, so better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. So they're starting to in this chapter alone tell you what type of person the king is. Okay, he's the type of person that isn't going to prioritize being rich. You know, in Luke 1, the Mary song, she says, God sends the rich away and gave her his son. She was poor. She was poor. Okay? She was oppressed. And God heard her prayers. Okay? The person who made love to her identified her. Okay? She was and wasn't the Virgin Mary. Okay? Her having her virginity taken, okay, was not considered a violation because it comes from God. We'll get to that if we have time. Almost out of time, so I'm going to shoot through this. All right. So, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps, right? The path. Which way you're going to go. What is the proper answer of the tongue? Which way you're going to go? Who are you listening to? Listen very carefully. That comes right before verse 10. The lips of a king speak as an oracle. His mouth must not betray justice. Okay, another Christian Standard Bible says God's verdict is on the mouth of a king, or something like that. God's verdict is on his lips, on his mouth. Okay? The lips of a king speaks as an oracle. Okay? Verse 11. Honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights in the bag are of his making. When do you see priests saying, hey, the Lord thy God is a warrior? If the person isn't in a true warrior spirit that's consistent with Hebrews 4:12, then he's not valid. They never say that. Because they're not using honest scales and balances. They belong to the Lord, and those people belong to this world. Kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established through righteousness. So the king who established his throne through righteousness, not money, not the church, not worldly acceptance, not coercion, not cheating, not lying, not ill-gotten gains. Proverbs 1:19. Thus are the paths of all those who go after ill-gotten gains. It takes away the life from those who attain them. Something to this effect. So through righteousness. Proverbs 16:13. Kings take pleasure in honest lips. They value the one who speaks what is right. That's why you constantly see me saying, these people are liars. Their very actions scream that they're liars. Their denial of the true spirit of God, being a warrior spirit, screams that they're liars. Right? We see that in Zephaniah in more than one place. We see it in Exodus 15:3, Zephaniah 3:17. The Lord is a mighty warrior who saves. He's a mighty warrior who saves. He doesn't sit there and say, I'm waiting. He's active. The Spirit of God is alive and active. Okay? He has responsibility. So, let me go verse 14. A king's wrath is a messenger of death, but the wise appease it. So they're overkilling and saying, hey, look for a king who's established himself with righteousness. There's kings from tribes and villages and countries all over the world. So who's established themselves in a way that's consistent with Scripture? 14. When a king's face brightens, it means life. His favor is like a rain cloud in spring. Verse 16, how much better to get wisdom than gold, insight than silver. They're saying, don't look for a rich motherfucker. Even Socrates said the pursuit of virtue is greater than the pursuit of wealth. Verse 17, the highway of the upright avoids evil, but those who guard their ways preserve their lives. Verse 18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Don't look for some cocky guy. Yes, I'm proper. Don't look for the haughty guy. That's not the Spirit of God. Verse 19, better to be lowly in spirit along with their oppressed than to share plunder. Remember, corporate is a play on words for core pirate. These guys take advantage of the system to exploit the workforce. And no, I'm not a communist, but that's simply how it is. The communism is a straw man to keep people like me from taking their rightful place. Better to be lowly in spirit along with the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud. Okay? Plunder has the word under. P-L, under. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers. And blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord. So what are they telling you? Right? It says the proper answer, verse 1, to whom is belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. We go down to verse 10. The lips of a king speak as an oracle. His mouth must not betray justice. Which one? We go down to verse 12. Kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established through righteousness. What scales do we use? Psychology? No. Because honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights are in the bag are of his making. We go down to verse 20. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers, and blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord. So listen to the instruction of the king. The Lord is going to speak through the king, who is the Christos, who connects with Jesus and God, who is Jesus in a sense, and he is going to give you your instructions from God. Okay? And he's disciplined in a martial art manner. Okay? Discipline, instruction. Perseverance, we're going. The wise in heart are called discerning, and gracious words promote instruction. Prudence is a fountain of life to the prudent, but folly brings punishment to fools. Right? Prudent. Planning for the future. Who you listen to for the future, the spiritual future? The king. The hearts of the wise make their mouths prudent, and their lips promote instruction. Gracious words are honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and healing to the bones. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end leads to death. Why? Because you didn't listen to the King of Kings. See Psalm 82 and read it and take notes and read it and read it and read it and read it. Okay? The appetites of laborers works for them.
Their hungers drives them on. Thirst for righteousness' sake.